So we have something really interesting.
We're excited.
Over-the-counter hearing devices launched in 2022, right around October. And different devices were launching. Jabra and Sony and Bose and lots of different companies.
And these are big names, right?
I mean huge names.
There was buzz, there was excitement.
And recently, an enormous player, finally,
the biggest name,
coming in late, but maybe lost the best of all the game. I mean, who knows? We are excited. These little guys right here, these AirPod Pro second generation. Now, interestingly, I went to Target, and you can get them at Walmart. You can buy them in different places. I went into Target to buy a couple different types of headphones that do some of these features to help us out, and we can research things. And of course, I was excited about the AirPod Pro because I have Apple. I know you don't.
I tend to lean Android.
And Apple, and it's kind of nice in the clinic because we get to see what the phones do with the different hearing devices through these years, right? But in this case, unfortunately, I hate to exclude you on this one, but Ryan, these headphones, unlike Sony and Bose and Jabra that will connect to any of these smartphones, this particular set of OTC hearing devices that are very, very customizable, they're very, very high-end type headphones, they only work with Apple.
I mean, we've talked about this before. We knew this was coming. There was buzz coming out of Apple for a long time saying hearing aid mode is coming. We were a little bit unsure. We've actually talked about this in previous videos. We've talked about what it might be. We initially thought for a moment you might need the newest iPhone, the iPhone 16. We're going to get into details. What do you need? What's the equipment? What's the hardware? What's the iOS version that you need to make these AirPods Pro second generation, to make them work like over-the-counter hearing aids?
Now, if you're like me and you bought this and you look at the box and it says AirPod Pro right on the top, you're thinking, oh no.
Yeah.
They sold me the wrong.
That's what I thought. I'm looking for the number 2.
I know. And then after further review, if you go to the back, you'll notice right here it says AirPods Pro, and then in parentheses, second generation. So I knew I had purchased the right thing.
And that's important, right? Because I actually, when you showed me this box, my first thought was, I don't think this is the right model. I think we need AirPods Pro 2.
So kind of, come on, Apple. If it's the AirPod Pro second generation, they could have put it there, but I think they're just keeping it simple.
Keep it clean.
Keeping it clean. So that's their marketing. Okay.
But you do need second generation.
And
if you want it to work as a hearing aid, it's got to be.
I went so far to look at the receipt, and on my receipt from Target, it didn't even say second gen. I was convinced I bought the wrong AirPods, but luckily, in very small letters right on the back, it says that. So another exciting thing about, like we're talking about packaging and things like that, I had heard. Have you heard? I had heard that you can take your phone out and you can take a hearing test. And so
this is new too.
I know.
This is a new feature.
Yep.
Take a hearing test, you're saying, right from your iPhone.
Yep. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take this hearing test, and I didn't know if it you took the test with it just coming out of the phone and you can push, tap it when you hear it. But if you just take these out of the box, and should we just do it?
Let's do it. Let's take them out of the box.
So we just kind of, woo. So,
box always looks nice, doesn't it? Apple does a good job.
I know. It's so white. You're like, is there anything in there? It's just all white. So we can grab this guy, I think. Here we go. So once you take these out of the box, it's pretty interesting because you've got your phone up. Anyways, all you do is open it up. Below this box, there's different fitment type tips. So you have like small, extra small, kind of a medium. These are mediums, and then they have large. So you kind of can play around with that. These fit me quite well. So we've been already playing with these a little bit, but I was surprised, they feel pretty good, right?
Yeah, and I agree, it's not uncommon for us to have patients that say, boy, I can't wear any earbuds or headphones. None of them fit my ear. And every ear is uniquely shaped. Every ear has a different size canal and opening, and sometimes these earbuds don't fit people.
Right.
But for both of us, for people that we've tried them with, they fit well.
Yeah, and so the first screen that comes up, it says, hey, Your AirPod Pros are here. They're connected. Now, if this was truly a new connection, it would have you, with the lid open, it says push the button. There's a little button on this, on the little case, and you push it, it connects right up. It's pretty seamless. It does tell you what to do, which is nice. And so you just kind of wonder what you should do with this. There's an X, so you exit out. Once you're, it needs my face here. Once you're connected, nice picture of me and my son on the screen there, but once you're connected to your phone, like these are, you just go into settings, and you'll notice that a new little item shows up. It says AirPods Pro, so you just click it. Yep, boop. Now this is kind of the fun part. You can see there's a lot of different things that it can do, different modes. But one of the cool things is that it says, take a hearing test.
I see that down at the bottom.
Yep.
Never before has a wireless earbud allowed you to take a hearing test. Now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but when I first heard about this, one of my concerns was, is the test accurate? How accurate is it? You know, if I'm taking a hearing test from my phone, I'm not in
your house.
I'm in my house, maybe I'm in my car, who knows where I am, but I'm not in a sound booth. I'm not in a calibrated environment with calibrated headphones and a calibrated booth. How accurate is this test going to be?
I know. So I can answer that. So having had the experience myself, you go through the different pages. It'll walk you through a couple different things, but the first one is it checks the fit to see if there's any leaking. And if the fit's like off a little bit, it'll recommend a different tip for you to maybe make it more sealed and to reduce the noise around you. Then it plays sound through each of the devices to make sure the sound is traveling like it thinks it should based on the microphones up here and the receiver, delivering the sound to the eardrum. So it's checking microphone, how much sound, and then it kind of gives you an okay, like this is a good environment for a hearing test, to answer your question. So if you were in your car and the motor was running, I haven't done this, but I don't know. I can only imagine it'd say, hey, too much noise in this environment to take a really good hearing test.
Which is good. And Apple usually puts out good, high quality products, and we would assume they have researched this and done a good job with it.
Now,
I think we still need to continue to check it and see. We've had pretty limited experience with it so far, but
what I really liked is, and I'll go ahead and go to the screen here because I took a picture of it. It actually shows your audiogram. So as you can see here, this was my, let me see if I can it kind of shows you, frequency across the bottom from low frequencies, 125 hertz, all the way up to 8,000 hertz. So typical audiogram type graph that you would see if you saw a doctor of audiology, which I thought was nice because when I had done hearing tests in the past with different or other manufacturers like Jabra or different companies, you take a hearing test, right? But it doesn't actually show you at which frequency are you ducking, and it's not quite as specific. And so really interesting.
As professionals, this is what we're used to looking at. I think most people out there, they're not used to looking at these graphs, but it's nice for us to see a graph that looks familiar, looks professional.
Now, Apple's attempt here is to not only have an understanding of who you are as the wearer, like do you have a little bit of hearing loss, and if you do, at what frequencies or what pitch tones. Their attempt is to make the sound for listening enjoyment the best it can be based on your individual ability. So it's actually really kind of cool. Probably for the last decade, there have been different companies that are trying to do things like this, some of which are a little higher level than this. They use a technique called otoacoustic emissions. We use this technology on newborns. It's an objective test form that can actually give you an idea of how you're hearing certain sounds across a certain pitch range or frequency range. And it's very detailed because you don't have to push a button when you hear a sound. It can actually read how your inner ear is performing without you doing anything. So it's in a totally objective form. Few of the companies that are, they're actually still coming out with these. And so Dannon and Sennheiser and some of these different companies actually do otoacoustic emissions prior to you trying their earbuds, because they're trying to give you the best experience for music. If you need a little extra enhancement in the mids or the high frequencies, it's going to give you this. So I think this is really cool.
I think it is too. And it's interesting as I look at this on the screen, their conclusion here is that in your left ear, there's little to no hearing loss. And in the right ear, there's little to no hearing loss. What we really want to do and what we've started to do is actually test these on patients, people with actual hearing loss,
right,
so that we can see, boy, is this test really accurate? And I don't know about you, I've had exactly one patient so far, and of course we'll do this more, that has had an audiogram that was done by me in a calibrated sound-controlled environment, and then he also took the test on his phone and was able to compare the two, and they were similar. I was pleased that they were as close as they were. I was expecting maybe large discrepancies. There were definitely some areas where the phone test was significantly worse than the test he took in the booth, which didn't surprise me too much because, of course, when you're in a controlled environment, you expect to get a little more accurate test. Whereas his test from the phone was close, but it wasn't perfect. And I think with these over-the-counter hearing aids, even when it's a company as good as Apple, that's kind of what we expect, is we expect it to get close and expect it to help, but not necessarily to be as good as it would be if you went to an audiologist and had a comprehensive test done.
Exactly. And I went ahead and went through a hearing test and went through that same experience just to see how close, because this is kind of an interesting concept, and maybe we pause here for a minute. People are on their journey and they're kind of wondering, do I have hearing loss? You know how you see blood pressure machines in the supermarket and different things? They would normally maybe not go to the doctor because they're younger and they're like, But maybe if you're like me and you have a dad that has cholesterol or you have a blood pressure situation and you're in your 40s and you're like, I'm not ready for a full physical because I feel healthy. But then you start thinking about grandma or grandpa or your own parents, or maybe you have a sibling that has a health condition and you see a screener says high blood pressure, or in this case, you buy some AirPods and you think, oh, I can take a hearing test. Yeah, my dad doesn't, hear great, or my mom, or whatever the situation. How cool that there's this awareness that can happen in a very, I don't know, it's very non-threatening, it's very personal, it's very just be in your room, take a hearing test, see what I find out. And in this case, I found out that I have, little to no hearing loss. It kind of showed that at one frequency, or two, it kind of ducked just in a very mild way. So it said, essentially normal hearing type of message. But what if it didn't? Then you'd be thinking, oh, I wonder if this is accurate, first of all, right? That'd be your first thing, like, is this phone in this situation accurate? But it creates awareness. I love that.
And I'd take it even a step further. I remember being a kid, a young child in the drugstore, getting in the blood pressure machine, playing around, having it take my blood pressure as a child. I think almost anyone who gets these new AirPods, when it pops up on the screen and prompts you, would you like to take a hearing test? My guess is there's 18-year-old kids out there that would say, okay, let's take a hearing test.
Music.
Let's do it. I think almost everyone would say, let's do it. And I think normalizing hearing tests, making it more accessible, making it just really easy, the awareness that it's going to create, I think is absolutely fantastic. I love that aspect of it.
Yeah. Really, really cool. So a couple things that I liked about the hearing test. The first one, it said, how old are you? And then it said, have you recently, in the last, so many minutes or whatever, been around loud noises? And I just thought, what a great question, because if you had just been out with your buddies and you were cranking up the sound and it's Friday hype time and you just won the football game or whatever, and then you pull out your AirPods and it's like, do you want to take a hearing test? If you've been stressing out your ear and really putting a lot of sound pressure and energy through your ear, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to sit in a quiet place, take a test, you're actually not going to take a very good test. So there were a few things that I thought they did
that was good.
A good job with. The fit, they made sure your fit's good. They made sure, hey, are you in a quiet place? And also, have you been in really loud noises here just recently, just prior to this? So I thought that was all really good.
Yeah, sounds like the test was well done, well thought out, well executed, and from the limited experience we have, it seems fairly accurate.
Right. Now, a couple things you can see if you're paying attention to how I look compared to Dr. Whitaker, except for the fact he's extremely good looking. If you look at my ears, you'll notice I'm actually wearing the AirPod Pro 2nd generation. They look just like the AirPod Pros. So the second generation and the AirPod Pro first generation, they look essentially exactly the same. So nothing there. I'm hearing through them, and so I don't feel occluded. I can tell that my voice is a little altered. It's a little bit changed just because I exaggerated a few things to see, how they work. So I'm turning the volume down and up, and I can get into a few of these screens here to kind of show you some of the exciting things you can do. So you can kind of see that if you scroll down from the top right corner here, it brings up a lot of things. One is it shows you're connected to something. So right here,
I see the picture.
You see a picture of AirPods
I see those
Pro,
AirPods Pro.
Second generation. But you also see a little ear here in the corner, which is really something that most people probably don't play with. So you hit that, and it brings up a couple different things. One is it tells you, hey, you're fully charged. It brings up kind of a tinnitus mode, where if you have ringing in your ears and you're by yourself and it's quiet and your ringing kind of comes in a little louder, you can click on that and it can give you different kind of nature type sounds, be it rain, the ocean, different options, and you can choose those and choose how loud you want them. On the side of your phone, you can turn them up and down. And so that's kind of I think that's a nice feature.
Yeah, kind of fun.
Yeah, and then you just tap on it again and it goes back out, and then here we go, hearing assistance. So you can see that, I want it to do the phone calls, I want some media stuff. It's on transparency mode, which means I'm hearing through. If I had set it to, noise canceling mode, it wouldn't, it'd be kind of like wearing hearing protection actually, which is cool. We can talk about that in a minute. But you notice it says amplification, and it's set kind of in the middle. It comes up at 50. I've got it a little above that right now. You have a left and a right option if you want it just in the right ear, left ear. Also tone. You might say, hey, I want it a little brighter. I want an infusion of higher frequencies to give me a little more clarity. So you can just take that up like that. And sure enough, I can hear it get a little bit more tinny, a little more edgy, and give those consonants a little bit bigger pop. I'll take that back down because I have essentially normal hearing. That's kind of annoying to me. Conversation boost, you can turn that on and off. So if you want a little bit more of the speech spectrum in general, you just hit that, gives you a little boost. So there's some customization of what you're going through. Maybe you're watching TV and you think, I need a little conversation boost. You can hit that
button.
Yeah, you can do some kind of cool things.
Let's talk about a couple of these features. I know we've been playing with it just very little, and as you put these in, one thing that's kind of interesting, if you've never worn hearing aids before, when you put in a hearing aid of any kind, whether it's over the counter, whether it's prescription, it sounds a little microphony. And I know that's not a word, but when you put it in, you'll know what I mean. It kind of sounds like you're hearing things through a loudspeaker.
Yeah.
And that is true even with the Apple AirPods. You put these things in and you hear it amplified and it sounds a little buzzy. It sounds a little microphony. And so that's normal for amplification. You are getting artificial enhancement of natural sound. And I think you'll notice that. If you're trying this for the first time as a hearing aid and you put it in, you'll say, okay, I can tell it's enhanced. I can tell it's louder and sharper. It sounds a little bit like I'm talking over a PA system.
Right.
And again, you're going to find that with just about anything. The conversation boost.
Yeah.
We were playing with this earlier. We've done it with our other friend, Dr. Barrett. For me personally, when that button gets clicked, I tell no difference. I'm going to be honest. Now, it probably is enhancing the speech spectrum. That's what we'd assume it's doing. I mean, you can do it right now. When I'm talking to you,
I did.
There it is. It's on. I'm talking. So conversation. I talk loud anyway, so maybe I'm not the best voice. Let's try it off and let's see. Do you notice anything legitimately happening there?
Yeah, so it is. I think with the hearing loss we typed in, and again, we're trying it and we have normal hearing, I can't hear any difference.
I don't know. So yes, some of these features are probably better than others. That's one that I'm a little skeptical about. I don't know that does much.
One thing that does help is when you go on the brightness scale, that changes my voice just
treble
quick.
Heavy.
Yeah, more treble heavy.
Yep.
So kind of interesting that one does work. It's also interesting that I'm getting a little internal feedback. And again, maybe if someone had enough hearing loss in the high frequencies, they wouldn't hear it, but I'm getting a little bit of overtone, like it's wanting to feed back. It's kind of a little, if I take the volume up all the way and crank it up, then I'm getting that quite a bit. Of course, I'm hearing loudly and sharply.
And it's mostly with your own voice, is that right? Or is it just any sound, my voice too?
I get a little bit of just
a little bit,
a little bit of just a little teeny feedback once in a while, not bad. Again, I can see these a little deeper, and that does solve it. But if you back out just a hair, again, if you max out the device, which is based on a hearing loss that I typed in here.
Which was normal. So maxing out a normal is not very loud.
And then you crank up the tone, the high frequency. So you're kind of maybe stressing this particular device. What we might be coming to the conclusion is that the hearing devices are probably best suited for mild,
absolutely,
maybe moderate, but if
you're going beyond mild, I think you will run into feedback issues.
It's just not built. It's just not built to handle those kind of things. So it's not made to be like this hearing aid or this prescription device. It's made to give a little assistance, and maybe a word I like to use is convenience. Hey, I can listen to music and really have a good set of headphones that do some really, really special things like transparency mode and adaptive mode. Adaptive mode is really great because you're listening and I can hear him, but as soon as we quit talking, within about 6 to 8 seconds, if I remember right, my music comes in. And then if I start talking or he does, the music fades out, and now it's trying to help me hear better than having your ears plugged. If you were wearing any other set of insert buds that are high quality, when someone tries to talk to you, it kind of does block off sound. So this hear-through function that can be adapted to your liking and kind of your hearing loss, I think it is a step in the right direction for having a better experience with music, your media, and then also just not impeding the ability to connect with someone, because if you have hearing loss and then you put earbuds in, you have a lot more hearing loss, and it'd be hard. So,
and I agree with that. I think, in fairness, this is an over-the-counter hearing aid, which really are only designed for mild hearing losses. So if you've got a fairly significant hearing loss, you probably need a little more help than these can provide. But also, to your point, they're excellent earphones. If you're just looking for good earbuds, if you just want to hear music really well, and if you like good quality music, and you like the transparency mode where you can set it to kind of fade out when someone talks, and then when they stop talking, fade back in. These features that are not necessarily related to the hearing aid, but just make them really cool headphones. They're cool headphones.
Couple things that I really enjoy about the AirPod Pro, and then maybe you can second generation, and then you can maybe compare it to some that maybe you recently bought. So I have some high-end headphones that I use on the treadmill and snow skiing, just different places recreating, going on jogs, things like that. I really enjoy recreating with entertainment, be it media, music, podcasts, whatever. And when I stick my Jabra Elite headphones in, it has a hear-through function, which works quite well, but it also has a noise cancellation where it just says hear-through off. And basically, the microphones go off, and you're just kind of have something in your ear, so it plugs you, and it reduces the sound around you. But what I'm getting at is that when you put the AirPod Pro 2s in, and you turn on their noise cancellation, it doesn't just turn off the microphones. There's something else that's happening that makes it really quiet around you, more like wearing hearing protection. And they actually boast that as you go through the app and you go through the different options of things you can turn on and off. One of them is noise cancellation, not just turn off the hear through, but actually cancel noise. And you activate that, and I was on the treadmill comparing my different headphones, the Jabras versus these, and that treadmill got significantly quieter. So keep in mind, my Jabras actually fit deeper. I thought for sure, going into this experiment, my own educated guess would be the Jabras are probably going to make the treadmill noise softer. I went in there with that bias, with that feeling. The AirPod Pro significantly outperformed the Jabras that were deeper fitting just because of the technology that's in it. That noise canceling feature that's not just turning off microphones, but it's doing other things to really cancel the noise. it was really cool. And so I thought that was a really great feature that if maybe you're a concert goer or you're just, you're doing things and you're like, oh, I better protect my hearing really quick. This is probably not quite as good as, say, getting earmuffs and really knocking out, 28 to 34 decibels of ambient sound. That would be better. But how nice to know that, hey, if you're trying to be conscientious of, I want to be healthy, I want to have good ear health, AirPod Pro 2nd generation is doing some cool things.
Yeah, if you really want high-end headphones, you want to look for active noise cancellation, ANC. And some of these really high-end products have that, and certainly these have that. I agree with you that if you're really trying to block noise, over-the-ear headphones are just going to block out more of the ambient stuff, and they're going to do a really good job with that active noise cancellation. I recently got a set of Samsung's latest earbuds. Yeah. They're called the Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, I believe is the name of these things. They always have names that are a mouthful. But yeah, it does something very similar. Active noise cancellation. They have hear-through mode. As far as just a headphone goes, they're awesome. They're super, super fun. Do they have a hearing aid function? No. That's what makes the AirPods unique, is they're the first earbud that's not just a really super cool earbud that is wireless, that has active noise cancellation, that has transparency mode. These are the first ones that actually have a hearing aid function.
Let's try it out. I'm going to go noise cancellation. Keep talking.
Yeah, so here we go. There it is. And with my loud voice, we doing okay? Oh, okay. Yeah. It's gone. Yeah. It's gone.
Now, what's cool is you can put it in a mode where as soon as I start talking, you notice it went to transparency. Yeah. So now I'm hearing you. But if we wait a second and I click over here.
Yeah. Shuts
off. So
pretty good.
And then if I start talking within just seconds, it went right back to transparency mode. And you can override it. There's different modes, like I've had it in the adaptive mode, so it switches back and forth.
Yeah. I'm thinking if you're on an airplane, you don't want it automatically doing that. No. You want to make it fixed.
Yep.
How do you make it fixed?
So you brought up a good question. What if you're on an airplane? What would you do to just not hear everyone around you, just your music? So what you would do is you just scroll down like that, and then hit your ear, and then you can see transparency mode. I checked it off because I don't want to hear anyone around me.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hold on, you could quickly scroll down, hit that, click that on here, and all of a sudden now you're hearing and things like that. So it just kind of clicks on and off. It's pretty easy.
I think that speaks to a topic of ease of use. How easy is this to use?
Right.
And I think even as people that deal with technology regularly, we deal every day with hearing aids and the changing world of smartphones and their compatibility with hearing aids. Even for us, there's a little bit of a learning curve.
Right.
Questions like this on, well, how do I fix it when I'm on an airplane versus keep the transparency mode on? We've got to play with it and figure it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so if you are someone that's comfortable with technology, pretty tech savvy, you've owned different types of earbuds in the past, I think you'll find this pretty easy to figure out and to use. Yes, there's a little bit of trial and error. If you're someone that's not particularly comfortable with smartphones, you don't necessarily know the shortcuts to get to some of these places, it's probably going to be a little bit of a challenge for you. It's probably going to be a little bit tricky. And a lot of those type of people are those that maybe over-the-counter hearing aids aren't the best option. Maybe you're someone that needs a little more help and a little more guidance.
Right.
But that's kind of my take on the simplicity. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, so without having a tutorial and really studying it out, just its ability to just be innately easy, not totally. For example, here we are in the main screen for settings, which is where your app is for this. This little option shows up only if you take your AirPod Pro 2s out of the case. Once you take them out of the case, all of a sudden that shows up as an option. So you have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and now you have this option right here that says iPod Pro 2, or just AirPods rather, AirPod Pro. So you click AirPod Pro, and you can see it kind of wants to shift between these based on the environment. Transparency mode, of course, means you're hearing through. It's amplifying. You're kind of in that hearing aid mode. Adaptive would mean if it goes really quiet, it will put you in a noise canceling mode. If it's if people are talking and I'm talking, it goes to transparency. If you want to turn that off, again, not totally obvious, but you just scroll down to the bottom here. It says conversation awareness, so you click that off, and now whatever you choose up here, it's going to do. So if I tap noise cancellation, it's going to stay in that mode. It's not going to adaptively switch between the two. Or if I click transparency mode, it's going to stay in the hearing aid mode the whole time. You're manually controlling that. So like right now, I can hardly hear myself. Am I talking loud? I don't mean to talk loud, but I love these things.
It's a little loud.
They're amazing. Okay, sorry, it's really loud, but
I think the basics are, and if I'm understanding right, as someone who's not necessarily an Apple Pro, if you want to use these as a hearing aid, here's kind of the summary from what I'm gathering. You're going to get these out of the box. When you open the lid, it's going to prompt you to pair them to your phone, and there's a button on the case that you push. That's going to sync them up. Once they're paired to your phone, which is pretty easy, then it's going to ask you, do you want to take a hearing test?
That's exactly right.
If you hit the little hearing test, it's going to take you through a little guided test that's going to make sure your fitting is correct. And I had one other patient say, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it actually has you hit a button when the tone goes away. Is that how it takes the test?
No, it actually just says when you hear the sound, tap your screen.
Okay. I think there are different apps that do it differently, but it's just kind of a normal hearing test.
Now,
guides you
just to
through
speak to that, you can, if you go to your app store, there are different apps for taking hearing tests. And if you use one of those, this program syncs with those. It'll allow you to load those in and things like that. And maybe some of those apps tell you when the sound goes away, hit it. But Apple's version of the hearing test you do, you're participating in. If you hear a sound, it just says tap the screen. So.
Yeah, that's good. And maybe we can get into a little bit of that too. But again, you pair it, you take the little hearing test. At that point, you're good to go. Do you have to click a button saying,
I want the hearing aid to work? Well, it's kind of nice because it alerts you. It says, hey, you've got normal hearing. But if you don't, it'll tell you you have a mild hearing loss or you have a moderate loss. And then it tells you what are some things that might be showing up in your world. And it goes through an educational process of not allowing your hearing to get worse and what hearing conservation. It goes through all kinds of things about when you first put them in, you're going to sound funny to yourself, and it walks through that, hey, it's going to take some time for you to adapt to new sound. And it's if you're reading every paragraph of what they're providing, I kind of thought it was pretty educational and actually quite pertinent. I thought it was appropriate.
Do you then have to give it permission to function as a hearing aid?
Yes.
Is there a button you click?
Yes.
Is there a yes, let's do it?
So when you're done and you get out and then you click on the new little option that's in settings, you click on it, it says hearing aid, and it is off. You have to, like Bluetooth, you have to tap it and it goes green, and then
so then you got to turn it on.
So you can turn your hearing aid mode on and off, but it is something that you need to do. Yeah. One thing that I didn't mention, so when I first pulled them out of the box, I opened it, I paired it, and they worked as AirPods, but I was like, I think I'm supposed to be taking a hearing test. Like, that was the whole reason for buying the second generation of AirPod Pros, right? So I was a little disappointed, and so I got online and I researched it, and it said, if your phone's not up to date with the firmware or the software, you've got to make sure everything's up to date. So I checked my phone, and I was one generation behind. I needed the 18.1. And so I, took 30 to 40 minutes, whatever it was, and it updated. Then I took my AirPod Pro 2s out of the little case, put them in my ears, opened it up, and it started asking me, do you want to take a hearing test? Now all of a sudden there were more options. So that's a really important thing to note, that if you have a fairly new iPhone, maybe like an 11 or 12 or newer, that has the ability to do that 18.1 update on your software, it's probably going to be just like me. You put them in and it starts asking you, do you want a hearing test, and let's explore. So it's kind of intuitive, but make sure you do that update, otherwise it won't work.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've made a mistake previously. We weren't sure exactly what we needed. You don't need the latest iPhone. You don't need the iPhone 16. You just need the latest iOS update, which is 18.1.
None of this works unless you have the AirPod Pro 2. You need the second generation.
Check the back of the box. Make sure you got second generation. So that's what you need. And again, we've been called out in comments before saying you might need the new iPhone 16. You don't.
Nope.
It's just the latest iOS update with the AirPods Pro 2, second generation. I think that speaks again to this conversation of how simple is it, how easy is it. That's an easy place to get tripped up, where you've got an older iOS version. You know you have a new iPhone. You know you have the right version, and it's still not working.
Well, you heard what I said. I then looked at the box and said, well, that's funny. It said AirPods Pro. Maybe I purchased the wrong AirPods.
Yeah, and you've got to have the right AirPods and the right iOS version to make it work. If you are tech savvy, let's say you're pretty with it with this stuff, and you want the most accurate hearing test loaded into your iPhone.
Yeah.
It is possible with Apple to actually load an audiogram. You could go to a doctor of audiology, have an audiogram created, and then you can actually load that into the iPhone. Isn't that right?
It's actually not very hard. Now, on the surface, I say it's not very hard. You do have to play around with the software, because once you've taken a test, your system, the way it's programmed, it only wants to use that test, because it's like, hey, that's the most accurate. So if you want to override what you did with your iPhone, with that hearing test you took in the quiet of your own personal space, you need to know kind of how to get there. And so basically, again, you're in the main settings screen where Bluetooth is and Wi-Fi. If your AirPods are in, and again, you cannot load any audiogram or do any modification as it relates to and pertains to how you use your AirPod Pro 2s unless you take them out of the case and put them in your ear. Once you do that, a little icon will show up, a little option. So you click it, and you come down here, and it says, take a hearing test. Now, you need to know that's what it literally means. If you click on hearing test, which I thought that's where you would go to load an audiogram, and I think Dr. Whitaker, you'd probably say the same. And it's in a different color. You're like, oh,
click me.
No brainer. Click me. No, no, no. Contraire, mon frère. What you want to do is right here, it says Media Assist. You click that, and then you just come down here, and what does it say in blue now? Update hearing test results. So you click it. Now, if you've done a couple tests and you've loaded them here, it'll show the date, and you can see that my initial experience on November 12th was basically no hearing loss, 4 dB of loss or 5 dB of loss in the right ear, which of course was cool. But then I thought, what do these sound like if someone did have more hearing loss, like a true mild to moderate, kind of more mild hearing loss? So what did I do? I typed in my own. So right now, because there's a couple options, this is the part I don't like. I wish it was a little smaller, because you have to literally go up to see that blue option, which is add hearing test results. Once you click that, it just walks you through, and you can add in manually. It says, do you want to add them manually, or do you want to upload them off a picture? I just did it manually, and it lets you do that.
Can I look at it? Click it.
Yeah, we'll click it. So that was actually today, this mild loss.
I've seen threads on the internet. I saw a Reddit thread saying someone tried to take a picture of an audiogram and it didn't work. And then they had to go in and manually enter things in, and it was difficult for them. So I'm curious. This is the first time I've ever seen this. So I'm curious to see how you do it.
Well, it's not. Let's see if it'll. So that's the hearing loss I typed in. As you can see.
How did you type it in? Where did you enter it?
Okay, yeah, let's do that. You're saying let's pretend like.
Yeah, let's enter one in.
So, not that any of you are keeping track, but that's a lot more hearing loss than what I actually have. Just as a
full disclosure, my hearing. Yeah.
So let's go back here. So it says update hearing test results.
Yeah.
And you come here. Again, I don't love that that's hidden, but that's okay. Add hearing test, and then I'll let you,
so
if you want to,
scanner,
go ahead and just add it.
And again, I have no experience with this. I've seen online people say the scan manually was not very accurate. That's something we need to try.
I've not done that yet.
Add manually. If I do that, some from photos. Let's enter them manually.
Yep, that's
good. And so then,
and then we're probably not going to use
on symbols. I think someone looking at this that's not familiar with audiology would say, I don't even know what that means.
That's exactly right. You wouldn't know what symbols.
Doesn't matter to me. So let's choose the cross.
And yep.
I mean, for us in the world of audiology, cross means left ear, circle means right ear, but it looked like I had to click both. Is that right?
No. Yeah, it's saying which of these symbols appear on your chart you got from your doctor. And usually, it's probably been the X's and O's for sure. Sometimes some of them may have some masking symbols, but
yeah. And sometimes you'll see this in a chart form where it's a table. I mean, it's more of a table with frequencies and numbers.
So you wouldn't know if 0X is. But just to be safe, if you're not sure, we would recommend just do X's and O's. Those are the most basic symbols that people use without being too fancy.
Which ones have symbols? So that's good. You have to be able to figure out the graph a little bit. You'll have to look at it and see, okay, which ones of these have symbols.
Just click those.
You probably just choose the ones that actually have X's and O's. Probably not that one.
Yep.
Maybe some of these. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And now here you just go plus and minus with each ear. So blue is always the left ear. Just remember red, right. So when you see the red symbol, it's for the right ear. If you're looking at your graph, look for the right ear and just kind of...
That's good. It kind of tells you up here that this is your left ear and that's the right, but it doesn't really. I think they're just trying to assume you have no idea how to read this graph. You're just trying to duplicate the one you're looking at.
So you can go plus or minus, and you can do that.
Okay,
and
and
you
then
can
it goes
go back
to the next one.
Yeah, and if you feel like you messed up, like you didn't do it quite right, you can go back a screen and correct it, things like that. So
just walks you through. You're doing each one. Okay.
So it takes a second, but then you can actually load that into your device and.
Yeah, and this is fun for me. I've never done this before, and it's good to see how it works.
Hey, I just did this morning. I mean, it was 6 in the morning.
This is new stuff.
I woke up and I'm like, what am I doing? Sleeping. I've got AirPod Pro 2s. I'm not sleeping. I'm going to
better enter my audiogram.
I got to play around a little bit. Oh, you're going beyond. You're going to see what happens if you go beyond 40 dB, huh?
What happens if we're going big on this guy? Okay, and there it is. Done. And now we've got a new
and it says,
okay.
It does still say mild. Because some of it's mild.
And maybe that's as much as it can do. Maybe, I don't know.
Boy, I think that's gracious, though.
Yeah, that's
Makes you feel good, like you have a mild loss.
Yeah, it's not moderately severe.
Because as a doctor, writing a report for your actual chart and describing what your actual problems are, we would not have said that's a mild loss.
It might just be doing a pure tone average, like a 500. You know, we have averages we take on these graphs, and that may be what it's calculating.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's too bad you can't go in and edit that same one. It makes you add new ones, but I think you can delete old test results, things like that. So
okay, it's definitely something you can figure out as someone that's never done it, but also someone that's pretty used to working with phones.
Look at this little tempting thing.
Let's set up a hearing aid.
Set up your hearing. So you just loaded your audiogram results, and the very next thing is, do you want to hear?
I do.
Do you want to go for it?
I do. I want to set up my hearing aid.
Okay, get started.
Okay, let's get started.
Yeah.
Okay, little information.
Take time, so it's giving you good info. That was what I was saying, is you can click on these and get lots of good information. We'll just keep going.
Good info. Your hearing aid's ready. Turn it on now.
Okay.
It's going to be a little louder. I'm curious.
Actually quite a bit louder, so I'm hearing myself quite a bit more.
Oh, and it does tell you that little control center if you want to swipe down.
Hey, keep it down.
Oh, man.
Keep it down, brother.
Now we're getting some amplification in there.
Holy schmolies.
Turn that down.
Guacamole.
There we go.
We're really hearing now. So, again, if you click on the ear, and now you've got it, it's full, transparent, all the sounds coming through. If you want more noise reduction, you can do that. Your tone quality. You've got your master volume here.
Do you know this? The master volume, where it says amplification, is their default 50?
It is.
You notice that
right
every
in the
time?
middle, every time.
That's good. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no matter if I had the no hearing loss audiogram entered, it was still 50. It's just, that's their default.
That's the middle.
So.
Cool, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, so that was your experience. You didn't have to wake up at 6 a.m.
No, I got it right here live.
Yeah. And so did you guys. But that's the experience with an over-the-counter Apple AirPod Pro 2nd generation hearing device. That's our experience so far. I will tell you, I went around the kitchen in my slippers and I was picking up the knives and I was trying the noise reduction, ambient noise reduction. It works amazing. So it's pretty bright, pretty sharp, and you're really hearing full on. And then as soon as you just go to the middle, like this, where you just take it right there, it calms things down. It kind of, I will say, it doesn't just take the ambient sounds down. It also does take down the overall gain or the overall amount of amplification you're getting. So this noise reduction feels a little bit like a volume control, a little bit, but it definitely made things, when I was doing dishes and trying to make noises, I was really impressed with how comfortable I could get, even though I had loaded a mild, type hearing loss in there. So that was kind of cool. Another feature that I have to mention that and again, I don't want to be dramatic, but for someone with essentially normal hearing, and you might be like that, when you want to watch TV and you want to make it so hardly anyone else hears the TV and it's just you, or you're watching TV with your family, you have a little bit of hearing loss, maybe you do have a mild to moderate loss and you think, I need more clarity. This is such a neat feature here. I'm going to show you, we're going to come all the way out. And again, when you want to adjust your device, it's just a swipe down on the right corner, top right. And then you click on the ear. Here, at the very bottom, Dr. Whitaker, what do you see?
I see two words, live listen.
And it's kind of cool because it's kind of Apple's little, I don't know, their little touch on.
I call it a walkie-talkie.
This
is walkie-talkie mode. This is your phone is now your walkie-talkie.
That's what it is.
If you want someone to go in the next room and whisper secrets to you, they can put on live listen.
But don't you feel like you're in the military? Like, let's go live.
I mean, this is stuff my kids would love. My kids would be like, let's go live listen. I'm going to talk to you from another room.
It's Mission Impossible time.
I'm going to feed you. Well, we shouldn't get it. You remember the old comedy shows where someone would have an earbud in their ear and someone would be feeding them lines and they have to say what the person's telling them. I don't know if you ever saw that. This is your live listen mode. Yeah,
so again, we go right to the ear. You hit live listen. Now, I'm not going to do it, but essentially what happens is when you click live listen here, right at the bottom, this microphone here, kind of where you charge the device, there's microphones there, and you can kind of see it. You charge your device, and there's these microphone inlet ports here where the sound comes in. Well, if I gave this phone to Dr. Whitaker and I had clicked live listen and I went, say, 50 feet, 40 feet, 20 feet, it doesn't matter. That phone, I mean, his ability to just talk into those mics, it's as if distance does not exist.
I'm going to do it.
Well, hold on. Before you do it. Okay. Before you click it, what I did find out is it doesn't work well here.
Close quarters?
Yeah, so like if we were in a car and you did it would probably work okay because you have some separation. But when you get like fairly close, like when I talk into it, it sounds really bad. But when I put it by the TV and it's like 6 feet, 8 feet, 12 feet away from me, I like live listen.
Walkie-talkie
This is
mode.
like a feature that is it's really cool.
Might be cool, yeah.
And then once you hit live listen, it's not your amplification gain handle, that amplification volume control where it says amplification. That doesn't turn live listen up and down. Because you're using your phone and you're turning that microphone up and down, it's the volume control on the side of your phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the spy mode. I mean, you can turn that on, leave it in the room, walk out. Oh.
Or say you're at a restaurant with your sweetheart or a friend. You could hit live listen and put it by their plate,
Yeah, they'll hear their voice better.
Or
it's
maybe
a cool
they have
feature.
a pocket, and you could ask them to and they're talking and you're on the other side of the table. It takes distance away, and because it's so close to the mouth, you're getting all the characteristics of speech hitting your ears, and again, you can turn it up or down. But I thought that feature. Did your friend that had tried this, did he say anything about this?
My one patient, yeah, no.
For me, it's like such a cool mode. You've got to tell him about that.
So I think we've come to the conclusion that this is a neat device. It's unusual for one of these major players in the hearing and entertainment and audio industry to actually come out with a hearing aid. There's a ton of buzz about it. We're excited about it. I think it's going to create great awareness for hearing loss in general. I think it provides accessibility to people that may not be ready for a prescription hearing aid to maybe take their first step into the world of amplification by using these as a hearing aid. I'm curious, though, just your opinion on where you see this fitting in the world of hearing aids.
Really, as you're going and you're talking about these major players and these people getting involved, let me just reiterate, because I tried this, and you don't need to do this because it takes a lot of time. When you update your phone to 18.1 and you're like, okay, my phone's ready, I'm just going to see if my AirPod Pros work. They won't work. You really do have to have the second generation. Because I thought, I wonder if they're just, trying to get you, are they just trying to get me to buy the latest, $200, $250 pair of really nice headphones that do a lot of things? I kind of thought they might be, but the truth is, if it's not second generation, no matter what you've done to your phone, it really won't do these features. So I just wanted to reiterate that.
And I have opinions too on where this might fit in. I'll let you chime in too. But I've had patients already say to me, "Boy, is this going to put you out of business? Is this going to be it? Now these are hearing aids. That's all anyone's ever going to get." And my opinion on this is these are really good for a lot of reasons, but they fill a fairly narrow niche in the world of hearing aids and amplification. You've got to be somebody with a mild loss.
Right.
If you're getting more than a mild hearing loss, which most of our patients do have more than a mild hearing loss.
Oh, yeah.
These aren't for you. They aren't designed to be strong enough to amplify your hearing loss. You've also got to be somebody that is comfortable with technology. And a lot of people are, especially younger people that are used to using iPhones, used to using AirPods. These can be a really great solution for those people. But again, a lot of our patients are not. They're not into smartphones, or maybe they're not into Apple smartphones. And so, again, we're narrowing who the audience is for these. And then again, I think we've touched on this in previous videos, but wearing these as a hearing aid, people are going to see them. There's a social stigma. Yeah. If I see you walking down the street with those in, I'm assuming you're listening to music or a podcast, and I'm actually assuming you don't want to have a conversation. It's kind of saying, I don't want to talk to anybody. I've got my own little audio world going on. Stay away.
I think so. As it stands right now, when you see things in someone's ear that are sticking out, and they've got them in, you just assume they're not ready to listen.
Yeah,
they're not ready to engage.
It's not time to engage.
And if I do try to talk to them, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Like, what do you got going on in there?
Yeah.
So there's some guesswork. There's some psychology that you have to work through.
There's a big problem there. And my one patient that was wearing these said, hey, I don't wear them when I go out socially, and I don't wear them when I'm at church. And that's when most people need them the most. So the very situations where a lot of people need hearing aids and need help, that's where they're embarrassed to wear these. So I think the audience for these and the application for these is fairly narrow. But again, I love that people have options, and I love the awareness that this is creating.
That's my favorite part.
I love the normalization of wearing hearing aids. There's a lot that I do love about it.
Or wearing something in your ear that could help you connect better, and you're sending a message to the world that I care about you. I want to connect with you. I want to make sure that I'm present when you're talking, and that we're not having an impedance or some breakdown in communication, that I am all in on this conversation. I think maybe one day having stuff in your ears, because maybe all of us will have things in our ears.
I think we're heading that way.
We'll just start talking, and people will get used to talking to people with things in their ears. You talk about awareness of, where am I at on my hearing journey? How am I doing? I know my parents or my brother or my friend has hearing loss. Do I? What a great first step. I mean, you got to admit, when you talk about awareness, having tools that people may just be buying, whether it's a Bose or an AirPod Pro or any of these type of devices, what a great first step to just thinking about your hearing. And I think people, as they are starting to understand that hearing ability and your ability to connect here in a peripheral way or just in your ears does affect how you listen and you connect with people. And so I think it's a great first step for just awareness. And it's okay that if your first step taking a hearing test is not with a doctor, but it's just in your own home, those people may not have come in anyways to a clinic like ours, but look at the awareness like, oh my goodness, I kind of knew I heard a little different than my wife, but boy, this graph is showing me some things I don't even totally know how to interpret. The iPhone is telling me I have a mild loss, but maybe I want to seek out some more help to figure out, is this a bigger problem than I think? The word mild doesn't seem, I just think the awareness part of it is totally amazing for the next right step for people to take serious their hearing health and not just think of it as a joke, like, oh, I didn't hear that, ha ha ha. You know, it's actually something important that you don't become the butt of all these jokes, but that, you know, you're taking it serious and that it's something very, very important.
I think we're hopeful that people that are younger, that normally wouldn't have come in and taken a test and gotten hearing aids, this is an opportunity for them to take that first step safely, non-threatening. You can get some hearing aids, again, as a first step, as a first experience with amplification. I think this could be a game changer. People in their 20s, people in their 30s, people in their 40s that normally wouldn't be thinking about hearing aids can now get a little taste of what a hearing aid is like. And again, that's kind of a first step, but maybe as time goes on, as maybe a hearing loss progresses, they may be more open to say, okay, I'm ready to take the next step into a prescription hearing aid and get something that's even more custom fitted, custom programmed, professionally evaluated. You know, I think that's kind of an exciting thought.
And you know, we're putting a lot of emphasis on the device here today because it's a new device. But there's another part of our hearing process and our ability to kind of listen and focus on sounds that this whole experience with your iPhone and with your new devices doesn't really speak to. And it can only be discovered through more of a comprehensive hearing test, a test that goes beyond just a little hearing screening of, okay, I'm hearing sound. That's kind of what we call a hearing screening. But there are so many variations of patients that we see that their hearing ability goes way beyond the audiogram or that chart, the charting of how your hearing loss looks across those frequencies. There are so many different types of issues that people have with their ears that go beyond how they're hearing in just that moment. So you have both individuals that want to know, why does my hearing seem to change? You have individuals that say, I do feel like I hear, but sometimes I just don't understand what people are saying. And we're wondering about the processing of sound in the brain. And so when you do come to a clinic like ours or another doctor of audiology, we take the time to actually look at how is sound traveling from the outside of your ear, through the ear canal, through the eardrum, going from this acoustic energy, transforming into mechanical energy, and then the sound actually goes into the inner ear where there's fluid, and now we're dealing with hydraulic energy. What's sound doing there? And then as it leaves the inner ear with this hydraulic motion, it actually changes to a different type of energy, kind of electric energy, this energy that travels up a nerve pathway, kind of up the brainstem and into the brain. And so as we analyze sound from start to end, we can really get an idea as doctors, how are you going to do with hearing help, or how are you going to do with extra sound that's hitting your brain? Kind of this opportunity to try to see, is there something happening with the hearing process and the focus of sound that this patient ought to know about? And having a hearing screening, it does tell you how you hear, but it may not tell us what are you ultimately doing with the sound.
Yeah. So, I mean, the question, is there a difference between the test you're taking on your iPhone and what you'd get at a doctor of audiology? The answer is absolutely yes, there is a difference. On your iPhone, you're getting a screening. It's a very basic screening. It's similar to what maybe you had in elementary school, where you're just listening for a couple tones, and it gives you a really good idea, is there a hearing loss or not? It gives you a general idea of how significant it is. When you come to a doctor, like you just described, you're going to get a much more comprehensive test taken in a calibrated, controlled environment where we're not just testing your hearing ability at different frequencies, which we do,
right,
but we are also testing your speech comprehension. We're also testing your eardrum mobility. We're also testing the little bones that sit behind your eardrum. We're also testing hair cell function. If necessary, we're also testing the nerve function. I mean, a comprehensive audiologic evaluation is much more in depth than a screening you're going to get on your iPhone.
Thorough. You know, and with this thorough type of test, one thing that is interesting is a lot of people wonder when they're not hearing well, the first question they always ask me is, you think it's just wax?
Yeah.
You know, and this just doesn't take that into account.
So, it didn't look in your ear.
No, the iPhone didn't look in your ear magically. And so having a thorough, you know, a really good evaluation of ear canal anatomy, do you have fluid on the eardrum? Is that affecting you today versus a normal day you wouldn't have that fluid? And so it's really exciting to think this is the first step in someone's journey for them to find out, snapshot, how am I kind of doing? And if it doesn't seem to line up with kind of what you're feeling in your own life, you probably need a more comprehensive test to say and speak to this. When I'm in these listening environments, I do break down, even though my iPhone's telling me I have essentially normal hearing. So
yeah, is it a good first step? Absolutely. Is it replacing doctors? No. And if your hearing test on your iPhone is coming back kind of strange, if it's a pretty significant hearing loss, or maybe your left and right ear aren't lining up, you should really have a comprehensive test done by a doctor.
Yeah, and what we found so far is even when it says you have a mild loss, again, it's kind of looking at kind of the middle part of that audiogram. So some test results that we typed in manually were actually quite severe, but the iPhone did not recognize any part of our experience as having a severe loss. It just said mild loss. So if your audiogram looks like this, where it's sloping down,
which most do,
and the middle part seems to be mild or mild to moderate, but down here it's more severe, and up here it's more normal, the iPhone is telling you, well, this kind of middle, just on the piano, like middle C right in the middle, you're kind of more mild or moderate. Just know that if you do see that it says mild or moderate, you may have a more significant issue than what it's saying. So, well, it's exciting. I'll tell you, I love the awareness. We love the devices. I've had them in the whole time. Just going back to my normal hearing, wow,
Ooh.
It is different. It is different. So having something that plugs your ear, you can see that I chose the medium kind of size here, and I'll just, dropping that. I'll just put them back in the case here. But this little, these little soft, squishy tips that go in your ear, they're really nice, they're comfortable, but I will say I've only had them in for about an hour, and it's kind of a relief to take them out. I don't want to be too negative here, but having something that plugs your ear when you're not used to something that plugs your ear, and you're wearing it for hours on end, and it's not custom fit, these are just a generic one size type thing. You can kind of choose your size, but it's a straight tip, and if your ear canal bends, or my experience is initially I felt like, oh, this is pretty comfortable. But after wearing it for quite a bit of time and then taking it out, just getting, it is interesting how this type of over-the-counter hearing device may not be my favorite for just wearing it for
long-term use.
Yeah, not just because people know you've got these headphones in or these AirPods in, and they, the stigma of it is, are you focused on me? Are you listening to something else? That's already kind of a known negative right now. A negative for sure is that it's large, but the second thing is it does block your ear, and if it's blocking off your ear canal, our studies and the observations we've had clinically is that prescription devices are so much better for the majority, not all, but the majority of different types of hearing losses, different shapes, different configurations. Having something that's custom built or created exactly specifically for your exact issue, the OTC stuff, no matter what the brand is not a great fit for being super custom for people. Right?
And maybe I'll just add too that we are not phone experts.
Yeah.
We are not necessarily electronics experts in the world of all things headphones, but we are doctors of audiology that see patients with hearing loss every single day. And so we can speak to how these compare to prescription hearing aids and other types of amplification. We hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have questions, please feel free to leave comments. We love that. We love interacting with you. We may not have all the Apple answers or the AirPods Pro 2 answers, but we'll do our best.
Or iPhone answers.
Yeah, certainly not. But we definitely can give our perspective and provide some advice. Please like and subscribe. That helps the channel. We sure appreciate all of you that watch. And thanks again for watching.
Okay, everybody, we so appreciate you watching the video today. If you've liked what you've seen, please like it, subscribe to our channel. It means the world to us, but it also means the world to other people who are trying to figure out what's going on with their hearing health. So thank you for watching.